This is a presentation for the Winnipeg Philatelic Society, Western Canada's oldest stamp club, and it's about the Ukrainian soldier that was rather rude to a Russian warship. Now, this happened on Snake Island on the 24th of February 2022. It was the first day of the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia, and it happened at 1800 local time. And the surrender of Snake Island was demanded by the Moskva, which means Moscow. And there are the words that the Ukrainian soldier spoke. Translated, it's Russian military ship, go something or other yourself. Actually, it's often translated Russian warship, but you can see there's three words. And literally, it's military ship, which of course means the same thing as warship. If you want to break the code of Ukrainian a little bit, you can kind of see that first word, which is Russian. Kind of, if you take the P as kind of an R sound and the two C's as S's, which C sometimes sounds like an S in English, and the backwards N, you can kind of make Russian out of that. Anyway, the Moskva opened fire. I don't think that's perhaps what the Russians expected. I think they probably expected the Ukrainians to just go, oh, warship, we give up. Anyway, all the guards were captured, but they were later released in a prisoner swap, and they've actually been awarded medals for resisting the Russian invasion. There's the Moskva in 2012 before its 2016 refit. And a couple of things to notice. You can see towards the stern there are some white containers, and those are things that contain life rafts. So if something bad happens, they will snap those open and they'll go overboard and evacuate the ship. And there's also some amidships behind the four cruise missile tubes, and there are actually 4 times 2 on each side, so 16 cruise missile tubes. So as I say, it's going to look a little different now because there was a refit in 2016, so 2022 will look a bit different. There's also a helicopter hangar or something like that at the back behind that radar dome. Now, the Moskva is a guided missile cruiser. It was the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, 611 feet long, 11,490 tons, 510 crew. And I wondered how big 611 feet was. I don't really know. Is that a big ship or a small ship? Well, the General Belgrano, which was sunk in the Falklands conflict, was 608 feet long, so about the same length. An Arleigh Burke-class U.S. Navy destroyer is 510 feet. I've seen them in San Diego, and they're pretty big. I was about to call it a boat, but they're ships. Ships have boats. Boats don't have ships, so if I ever use the word boat again, I'm wrong. A Virginia-class submarine, 460 feet. A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. Those are about the biggest ships in the world. Perhaps there's some cruise liners that are now bigger, but 1,092 feet. The largest Canadian destroyer or naval vessel is the Harry DeWolf, and it's 339 feet. So the Moskva was twice the size of the largest Canadian warship. On April the 13th, 2022, there are conflicting reports, but late in the evening, according to the Ukrainians, the Moskva was hit by 2 Ukrainian-made Neptune missiles, accompanied by a Turkish-made drone that was helping to distract them. The ship was 65 miles offshore. That's the distance between Winnipeg and Portage-la-Prairie. That's a long way, and per the Ukrainians, it sank. And there is a picture of a Ukrainian-made Neptune missile launcher. Russia made a variety of statements, and this is the chronology of the Russian statements. The first thing they said was that a fire, a kitchen fire, they were cooking pancakes in the ammunition locker. A kitchen fire detonated ammunition. And the next thing they said, all 500 crew were rescued from the ship. And the next thing they said was that the remaining crew, after everybody had been evacuated, put the fire completely out. And then they said there were no casualties. And then they said 360 crew were evacuated, 1 casualty and 27 missing. And then they said that the ship sank while towing in heavy seas, April the 14th, 3 o'clock local time. So here is a picture of the Moskva, April the 14th, and you will notice it's in very rough seas. You will notice that the life rafts, both towards the stern and amidships, are gone. People have obviously used them to evacuate the ship. You will notice that there are 2 black marks that look like something like a missile or something like that went in at that point. And there's 4 smudges of black smoke coming out of portholes where obviously there was a pretty significant fire in the ship. And I can't tell from the picture, are those little orange marks burning fires? There's certainly fire because there's smoke coming out of it. There is a video of this that shows this. This is a still from the video. And in the video there's a tugboat to the starboard of the Moskva. And the Russians say that it was being towed at the time it sank. And they also say it was in heavy seas, and you can see these are very heavy seas. Now, the Ukrainians then decided on April the 4th that they would issue a stamp to this event. And there we see the Moskva, and there you see a very rude Ukrainian soldier. And this is the design that was accepted on April the 4th, 2022, and it was put up for sale on April the 12th. Now, somebody had to explain this to me because, for instance, I saw a news reporter on TV one day who was wearing the bluest of blue suits and had the most yellow of yellow ties, and I wondered, what on earth are you doing? Where did you come up with that color combination? And we see the same color combination here, yellow on the bottom and blue on the top. And of course that's the Ukrainian flag. So the artist was quite clever with this design. Now, Ukraine issues stamps in letter values, kind of like Canada and Great Britain and the United States do. Canada has permanent stamps. The United States has forever stamps. They have a series of letter values of stamps. And here they are, V, L, F, H, and W. Those are the values in hryvnia, which is the Ukrainian national currency. 12, 15, 23, and 50. I have been unable to find out what the W value was or is. I think it has since changed. And there we see hryvnia in Ukrainian script. It is the national currency. The symbol for it, like a dollar sign or a pound sign, is that backwards S with 2 lines through it. And it's kind of pronounced like it's spelt, so I hope I've done that right. Hryvnia. So here's our timeline. On the 24th of February, Snake Island is invaded, and a Ukrainian soldier is quite rude. On April the 4th, a stamp design is made public, and on April the 12th, the stamp is issued. On April the 13th, late in the evening, the Moskva is on fire, and on April the 14th, late in the evening, it sinks. And I kind of thought, this is kind of a unique stamp. I think I should get one. So on April the 15th, I purchased from a Ukrainian seller one of these stamps. Now, I was advised that it might take a rather long time because, gee, there's a war going on. And so it was shipped on April the 21st, and my seller said, don't think it's going to be there until June the 26th. And so here are some of the details in Ukrainian about how the tracking was going, and so I will follow that along. On April the 15th, I bought it, and 4 days later, and 4 days, reasonable length of time for my seller to, put it in an envelope and take it to the post office. On April the 19th at 7:49 in the morning, a tracking number is provided. And there was no Ukrainian description of that. It just said there was a number provided. 2 days later, the Ukrainian description says shipment accepted. And 5 hours later, it says receipts to the sorting center. 1 day later, same thing, receipts to the sorting center. And we're now on the 22nd of April. 5 minutes later, admission to the Outward Office of Exchange of Ukraine. So I assume they're sorting it for delivery to Canada. 50 minutes later, prepared for customs control. So they're checking to make sure things are okay for customs. 2 hours later, released from customs control for further delivery. 3 hours later, the shipment is processed at the exchange office and transferred for further transportation to the destination country. And 3 days later, the container with your shipment is transferred to the vehicle heading to the country of destination. So I assume they put it on a truck. I'm guessing it went to Warsaw. West of Ukraine, east of Ukraine is Russia. West of Ukraine is Belarus, which is hostile. Poland, Slovakia, Moldova, and Transnistria, which is a breakaway country. So I assume it went from Kyiv to Warsaw. And that's 784 kilometers, and at the speed limit should have taken 9 hours. But tracking only works while it's in the country that started the tracking, so it only works while it's in the Ukraine. So April the 27th, May 2022, no word. June the 9th, and this is kind of after the fact, I looked up and found this, but June the 9th, Canada tells me it's accepted by the destination post for processing. And so on June the 15th, 2022, I'm out mowing my lawn. And the Canada Post truck stops in front of my driveway. The letter carrier hops out and says, I have to scan this. And I said, is this my letter from the Ukraine? And he looked at it quickly and said, well, yes, it is. So here is the envelope. This is the postage stamp side envelope, and you can see there are some F values and then a value that's been overprinted out and replaced with a 150 hryvnia value. So 6, 7, 8 stamps make up the international postage rate. And my seller sadly put tape all over these stamps, so I don't mind. I'm never taking this envelope apart. It's part of the souvenir. Here's the other side of the envelope. I think he perhaps was a little too careful. He's put this in a sort of a plastic pouch envelope for a CD, and there you see the Ukrainian symbol on it. So he was very, very careful in the packaging, and you can see he provided tracking, and it looks like it got tracked on exactly the days it said it was. I've kind of blanked out both addresses. So he was very careful in shipping it, and it might have come faster if he just put it in a legal size envelope. That might have come faster, but he shipped like this before, and he knew how long it would take, and gee whiz, there's a horrible war going on. Anyway, he sent me a nice message. Hello, dear buyer. Thank you for buying the stamp. Hope you will be satisfied with our service. See you next time. And notes that he's in Kyiv and writes, no war. I couldn't agree more. Don't like war. So here is the stamp, W value stamp. Ukrainian soldiers being rude to the Moskva. You can see it looks a little different than that picture from 2012, 10 years ago. And the Ukrainians, not wishing to take a victory lap or anything, they have issued again another stamp noting on April the 14th, done. You can see that's up in the corner there. This stamp was issued a couple of weeks or a month later. But you can see the W stamp now. The warship is no longer in the picture. And there are, of the 6 images, 3 are stamps and 3 say done. So they're not taking a victory lap. And perhaps the Russians, from the very beginning, should have got the message that the Ukrainians were going to be doggedly determined in resisting this. Anyway, it's kind of another rude stamp, shall we say. Anyway, as I say somewhat sarcastically, they're clearly not annoyed. So, thanks for listening.